February was another eventful month in aviation, and this video will provide an overview of the stories you might have missed, as well as the major ones that have been impossible to ignore. Since this was filmed before some recent updates became available, those will be covered in a later stage.
So these are the stories for today, guys. I know that there's other very important aviation developments that emerged in February, including the state of the air traffic control, for example, but I think that's a story that deserves its own video. But what else did you see happen in the last month that you think I should cover? Make sure to let me know in the comments below. My name's Ben Watts, you're watching Mentor Now. Have an amazing week, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Increase in content output. A few extra videos are being released each month. And to help with that, my good friend and fellow Boeing 737 type rating examiner, Ben, will be presenting some of them. Please give him a warm mentor welcome. Another month means another look at what has been happening in aviation over the past few weeks. Continuing the monthly recap series, this video highlights stories that may not be big enough for their own dedicated coverage yet, but are still worth keeping an eye on. Some of these may evolve into larger stories in the future, so stay tuned. One of the first stories actually began in January, but was too late for the previous roundup. In this case, it worked out well since the story became even more interesting in February. This involves Boom Supersonic and the first supersonic flight of their XB-1 aircraft. The jet is a single-seat experimental testbed designed as an intermediate step toward developing the first supersonic airliner since Concorde's retirement over 20 years ago. A previous video on Boom's work covered some of the challenges the company faces in making this project a reality. The Overture aircraft is planned to be similar in size to Concorde. Initially, it featured a 3-engine layout and a very Concorde-like wing, but its revised 4-engine configuration and engine placement now resemble the renderings of Boeing's old 2707 Supersonic Transport SST. Boom claims to have orders and pre-orders for 130 aircraft from American Airlines, United, and Japan Airlines. While Virgin initially showed interest, that no longer seems to be the case. There's more to discuss about these orders and how firm orders and options are defined, which might be covered in a future update on Boom. For now, the focus is on the company's first aircraft, the XB-1. In previous years, progress had been slow. The plane was rolled out in October 2020, and at the time, its first flight was expected in 2021. That didn't happen. Taxi tests didn't take place until 2023, and the first flight finally occurred nearly a year later in March 2024. The initial flight lasted only 12 minutes, and after a few months' gap, a second flight took place in August. Boom then gradually extended its flight testing, flying longer and higher. On January 28th of this year, the aircraft flew for the 12th time, lasting just over half an hour and breaking the sound barrier 3 times, reaching Mach 1.1 before landing safely. This was repeated on February 10th, with a slightly longer flight, reaching Mach 1.12. There are 2 additional points of interest.
The current president may not have the chance to use them. As we've explained in a previous video, Boeing's delays have to do with supplier issues.
First, the second supersonic flight was a final planned flight of the XB-1, which will now be retired and eventually displayed in Boom's Denver, Colorado headquarters. Second, Boom announced that during the last test flight, the aircraft flew supersonically without creating a sonic boom at ground level. The company